The bright lights of the diplomatic shuttle dimmed as it approached the massive structure floating in space. The Galactic Confederation Central Hub was an enormous wheel-shaped station, nearly 20 miles across, with spokes extending from its center like an ancient compass rose. Daniel Winters pressed his hand against the viewport, taking in the sight with a mixture of awe and apprehension. "It's bigger than they described," he said quietly. Susan Crawford nodded beside him. "Everything about this mission has been bigger than described." Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, her expression professional, but Daniel could see the wonder in her eyes too. 7 months ago, humanity had made first contact with alien life. 3 months ago, Daniel had been appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the stars. The shuttle pilot, a blue-skinned being with 4 arms, announced something in a clicking language. The translation device on Daniel's collar spoke. "Docking in 3 minutes. Please prepare for arrival procedures." Alex Morales, their tech specialist, checked his equipment one final time. "Communications array is ready. We'll be able to talk to Earth in real time through their network." He was younger than the others, his enthusiasm barely contained despite the formal diplomatic attire. Daniel stood up and straightened his uniform. The blue and silver colors of United Earth shimmered under the lights. "Remember the briefing. We're here to observe and learn. Earth's application for membership is a formality at this stage. The real work is showing them we belong." Susan recited, from memory. The Galactic Confederation, 37 spacefaring species over 12,000 inhabited worlds, founded approximately 8,000 Earth years ago. "And we're number 38 if we play our cards right," Alex added with a grin. The shuttle docked with a gentle thud. When the doors opened, they were greeted by a delegation of various alien species. Leading them was a tall, elegant being, with silver skin and eyes like polished onyx stones. "Ambassador Winters," the being said in perfect English. "I am High Counselor Valeria Corin. Welcome to the Confederation Hub." Daniel stepped forward and performed the greeting gesture they had been taught, right hand open, palm facing inward over the heart. "High Counselor, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we thank you for this opportunity." As they walked through the arrival chamber, Daniel was struck by the diversity of life forms around them. Some were vaguely humanoid, others completely foreign to human experience: floating gas sacs, crystalline structures that moved on fields of energy, massive insectoid beings that clicked and whistled to each other. "You will be granted observer status immediately," Valeria explained as they walked. "This gives you access to most public areas and information databases. Your quarters have been prepared in the diplomatic sector." Susan was making mental notes of everything, her trained diplomatic eye missing nothing. "High Counselor, we understand there will be a formal introduction at tomorrow's assembly?" "Yes, all member species will be represented." Valeria's expression shifted slightly, including the Drellani. The way she said the name made Daniel pause. "Is there something we should know about the Drellani?" Valeria's silver face was difficult to read. "The Drellani Empire is traditional. They are one of our more powerful members and can be particular about protocol. They have expressed some reservations about humanity's rapid advancement." Alex raised an eyebrow but said nothing. Daniel made a mental note to review their files on the Drellani again before the meeting. The diplomatic quarters exceeded their expectations. The rooms adjusted to Earth normal gravity and atmosphere automatically. Large windows looked out onto the vast expanse of space and the swirling blue-green gas giant the station orbited. After settling in, Daniel called his team together. "First impressions?" Susan spoke first. "They're being helpful but careful. Did you notice how many security checkpoints we passed through? They're watching us." "The tech here is centuries beyond ours," Alex added, examining a floating holographic display. "But they're only showing us what they want us to see." Daniel nodded. "I got the same feeling. Let's remember why we're here. Earth needs allies, trade partners, and protection. The discovery of faster-than-light travel put us on the galactic map, but we're newcomers in a very old community." Later that evening, as Daniel reviewed cultural briefings on his datapad, The door chimed. A being entered, roughly humanoid, but with rough, bark-like skin and eyes that glowed a soft amber. Ambassador Winters, I am Julara of the Teresi Collective. May we speak privately? Daniel gestured to a chair. Of course. Julara sat down, moving with a strange, fluid grace. I came to offer friendship. New species often find the politics of the Confederation challenging. I appreciate that. We have much to learn. The alien leaned forward. Tomorrow you will meet representatives from all member worlds. The Drellani delegation will likely test you. Daniel remembered Valeria's tone when mentioning the Drellani. Test us how? They believe in natural hierarchies. To them, new species must prove their worth. Julara's glowing eyes dimmed slightly. They may try to provoke you. Thank you for the warning. After Julara left, Daniel called Susan and Alex to relay the conversation. Susan frowned. This confirms my suspicions. There are factions within the Confederation. The next morning, they entered the Grand Assembly Hall. The chamber was enormous, with seating arranged in tiered semicircles. Hundreds of different beings filled the space, their voices creating a symphony of sounds unlike anything Daniel had ever heard. They were led to their designated seats. As Daniel took in the scene, he noticed a group entering across the chamber. Their appearance was striking. Tall beings with alabaster skin, sharp features, and eyes that reflected light like a predator's. They moved with military precision, their elaborate uniforms adorned with what appeared to be tokens or medals. The Drellani, Susan whispered. One of them, taller than the rest, looked directly at Daniel. Even across the vast chamber, the cold calculation in that gaze sent a chill through him. Alex whispered, That's Krantzek, their representative, former military commander. The assembly began with formalities. Various species welcomed humanity to the Observer program. When it was the Drellani's turn, Krantzek stood. We acknowledge Earth's presence, he said, his voice deep and resonant. Though we question whether a species so young can truly comprehend the responsibilities of Confederation membership, humans have only recently stopped killing each other over trivial differences. Daniel felt a flare of anger but kept his expression neutral. When it was his turn to speak, he stood calmly. On behalf of Earth, I thank you all for this welcome. It's true that humanity has made mistakes. Our history contains darkness alongside light. But perhaps that gives us a perspective others might lack. We don't claim perfection, only the will to learn and grow. He looked directly at Krantzek. And an unwavering commitment to building a better future for all sentient beings regardless of their origin. A murmur ran through the assembly. Daniel thought he saw approval in some alien faces, surprise in others. Krantzek's expression didn't change, but he inclined his head slightly, a gesture that might have been respect, or perhaps just acknowledgement, of a challenge accepted. As the session ended, Daniel knew they had taken their first real step into galactic politics. Earth's journey had just begun, and the path ahead would be far more complex than any of them had imagined. 3 weeks passed since the human delegation arrived at the Galactic Confederation hub. Daniel Winters sat in the Earth Embassy office, reviewing reports with growing concern. The room was sparse but functional, with Earth plants bringing a touch of home to the alien environment. The more I learn about the Drellani, the more troubled I become, he said to Susan, who was organizing data on a holographic display. Susan nodded. Their society operates on strict hierarchy. Males hold all positions of power. Females are essentially property. The door slid open, and Lisa Blackwood entered. She was the newest addition to their team, a human rights lawyer with sharp eyes and a determined expression. Ambassador, I've finished reviewing the Confederation's non-interference policies, she said, placing a data pad on the table. They're extensive. Daniel picked up the pad. And convenient for those who don't want their practices questioned. Lisa took a seat. The Drellani Empire spans 17 star systems. Their central belief is that genetic purity determines worth. They've been members of the Confederation for over 600 years. And no one questions how they treat their own people? Daniel asked. Cultural sovereignty is a founding principle of the Confederation, Susan explained. No member may interfere in the internal affairs of another. Alex Morales rushed into the room, his face flushed with excitement. Ambassador, you need to see this. I've been analyzing the public broadcast archives. He activated a display showing thousands of Drellani females working in what appeared to be mines. Their conditions were clearly harsh. Many showed signs of malnutrition and injury. This is from 3 years ago, Alex said. A cultural documentary about resource extraction. But look at the death figures they casually mention. He highlighted a scrolling number at the bottom of the image. Daniel's jaw tightened. 20,000 deaths in one facility? That's not labor, that's extermination. And perfectly legal under Confederation law, Lisa added grimly. The door chimed, and Goran Hayes entered. He was their military attaché, a broad-shouldered man with a perpetual frown. Ambassador, we've received an invitation. The Drellani are hosting a cultural exchange event tomorrow. All delegations are expected to attend. Daniel exchanged glances with Susan. Interesting timing. The next day, the human team entered an enormous chamber in the Drellani section of the hub. The room was decorated with what appeared to be battle trophies and strange crystalline sculptures. Alien delegations mingled cautiously. High Imperator Vrax approached them. He was taller than most Drellani, with piercing eyes and elaborate facial markings. 4 guards followed behind him. Ambassador Winters, Vrax said, his voice deep and measured. We are pleased you accepted our invitation. Daniel performed the formal greeting. High Imperator, we appreciate the opportunity to learn more about Drellani culture. Vrax gestured around the room. These artifacts represent 5,000 years of Drellani achievement. Each commemorates a step in our evolution toward perfection. As they toured the displays, Daniel noticed there were no female Drellani present. The artifacts primarily celebrated military conquests and genetic advancements. This crystal records the great purification of the Third Era, Vrax explained, pointing to a blood-red crystal formation, when our ancestors identified genetic corruption in 3 entire provinces. Corruption? Lisa asked carefully. A weakness that would have diminished us, Vrax replied. The provinces were cleansed. 12 million lives were sacrificed, so billions could remain pure. Daniel felt his stomach turn, but kept his diplomatic mask in place. An extraordinary decision. Necessary, not extraordinary, Vrax corrected. Weakness cannot be tolerated. Later, at a reception area, the human team was approached by Julara, their Teresi ally. You handled that well, Julara said quietly. Vrax was testing your reactions. Susan sipped a blue liquid from a crystal glass. Is that why we were invited? To be tested? Partly, Julara replied. But also to prepare you. For what? Daniel asked. The Drellani have announced a special cultural broadcast tomorrow. All member delegations are required to witness it as a show of respect. Daniel's instincts flared. What kind of broadcast? They call it a purification ceremony. It's rare to open it to outside observers. Some see it as an honor. Back in the privacy of their quarters, Daniel called an emergency meeting. I've been reviewing historical records, Lisa said. The last time the Drellani invited observers to a purification ceremony was 60 years ago. Alex pulled up archived footage. The images showed hundreds of Drellani females being sorted into groups. The recording cuts off here, he said. The rest is classified in the Confederation archives. Can you access it? Daniel asked. Alex shook his head. Not without violating at least 6 diplomatic protocols. Goran Hayes spoke up. Sir, I've been talking to the security teams from other delegations. There are rumors that this ceremony is significant, larger than usual. Daniel paced the room. We need more information before tomorrow. That evening, as Daniel worked late in his office, the door chimed softly. When it opened, a hooded figure quickly slipped inside. Ambassador Winters, the figure whispered, pulling back his hood to reveal a Drellani male. His face lacked the elaborate markings of the higher castes. "I am Krell. I risk everything by coming here." Daniel stood. "What do you want?" "To warn you." Krell's voice trembled. "Tomorrow's ceremony. It's not what they claim. Matriarch Sivax led a resistance movement. They were discovered 3 days ago." "A resistance?" Susan asked, entering from the adjoining room. 50,000 females who questioned their place, Krell explained. They dreamed of equality, of choice. They were captured in the outer colonies. Daniel felt cold realization dawning. "And tomorrow's ceremony is their execution," Krell finished. "The High Imperator plans to make an example of them. But more than that, he wants the Confederation to witness it, to endorse it through their silence." "We have to stop it," Lisa said, having entered. During the conversation, Krell shook his head violently. "Impossible, the ceremony will proceed. The question is, what will you do when you witness it?" "Why tell us this?" Daniel asked. "Why risk your life?" Krell looked at each of them. "Because in the short time humans have been here, you've shown something rare. You ask questions others have forgotten how to ask." He moved toward the door. "Tomorrow every species will watch. Most will say nothing, do nothing. What will humans do, I wonder?" After Krell left, Daniel gathered his team. Their faces reflected the weight of what they'd learned. "The Confederation laws are clear," Susan reminded them. "We cannot interfere in Drellani internal affairs." "Even if it means watching 50,000 people be murdered?" Lisa demanded. Daniel looked out the window at the vast station that represented thousands of years of interspecies cooperation, built on compromise but also on silence. "Get me a channel to Earth," he said finally. "We need to speak with President Washington immediately." As the others left to make arrangements, Daniel remained at the window. Tomorrow would test not just his diplomatic skills but humanity's most fundamental values. The Grand Assembly Hall was filled to capacity. Representatives from all 37 species sat in tense silence. The curved walls displayed enormous screens, currently showing only the Drellani imperial symbol, a twisted helix pattern that Daniel now recognized as their representation of genetic perfection. Daniel and his team occupied the Earth Observer section. His conversation with President Catherine Washington had been brief but clear. Observe, document, and avoid diplomatic incidents if possible. Earth's military was too small, too new to the galactic stage to provoke the Drellani Empire. "Remember," Susan whispered, "our membership application is still pending. The Confederation Council watches our every reaction." High Counselor Valeria Corrin stood at the central podium. Her silver skin seemed duller today, her movements stiffer. "As is our custom, we gather to observe the cultural practices of our members," she announced. "Today, the Drellani Empire shares an important ceremony with us. This observance is a requirement of all who seek full participation in Confederation affairs." The lights dimmed. Daniel felt a cold weight in his stomach. He glanced around, seeing alien faces turned toward the screens with expressions ranging from indifference to resignation. Only the Teresi delegation, including Julara, showed signs of discomfort. The screens flickered and revealed a massive arena. Thousands of Drellani females stood in ordered rows, their heads shaved, wearing identical gray garments. Armed guards surrounded them. On an elevated platform sat Matriarch Sivax, heavily restrained, her face showing defiance despite her circumstances. High Imperator Vrax appeared on the screen, addressing the arena and, by extension, the entire Confederation. "Today we cleanse our society of its greatest threat," his voice boomed. "These females have rejected the natural order. They have conspired to corrupt our genetic purity. They have forgotten their purpose." The camera panned across the faces of the condemned women. Daniel saw no fear in their eyes, only quiet determination. "This is wrong," Lisa whispered fiercely. Goran Hayes sat rigid beside her. "Remember your orders, Ambassador," he murmured to Daniel. On screen, Vrax continued. "For 8 generations we have allowed leniency. We have permitted females some education to better serve their function. This was our error. Knowledge became poison in their minds. Shivax suddenly spoke, her voice clear despite the guards moving to silence her. We sought only dignity, to be recognized as thinking beings, not breeding stock. A guard struck her, but her words had already echoed through the assembly hall. Watch, Vrax commanded, as order is restored. What happened next unfolded with horrifying efficiency. The arena floor separated into sections. From beneath, machines rose, devices designed for one purpose. The women were systematically moved through processing chambers. Their bodies afterward were reduced to ash through some form of energy field. In the assembly hall, many delegates looked away. Some species with more fluid physical forms seemed to collapse in on themselves, as if trying to become smaller. No one spoke, no one objected. Daniel felt something break inside him. This wasn't politics or diplomacy anymore. This was beyond cultural differences or respect for sovereignty. He stood up. Ambassador, Susan hissed, grabbing his arm. Don't. He gently removed her hand. I have to. Daniel walked to the central floor of the assembly hall. This act alone violated protocol. Observers were not permitted to address the full assembly without invitation. Ambassador Winters, Valeria Corin said, her voice tight with warning. Return to your seat immediately. Daniel looked at the screens where the slaughter continued with mechanical precision. I cannot sit silently while this happens. This is not your concern, a Drellani representative called out. You are guests here. This is everyone's concern, Daniel replied, his voice carrying through the hall. What we witness is not cultural practice. It is mass murder. A ripple of reaction passed through the alien delegates. Some shifted uncomfortably. Others seemed to grow more alert, as if wakening from a long sleep. You have no right to judge, the Drellani representative said coldly. Your species is not even a full member of the Confederation. Perhaps that gives us clearer eyes, Daniel answered. We have not yet learned to look away from atrocity. The High Counselor stepped forward. Ambassador Winters, the Confederation's first principle is non-interference. Each species governs its own. This has preserved peace for thousands of years. At what cost? Daniel gestured to the screens. Is peace built on silence in the face of mass killing truly peace? On the screens, Sivax was now being led to the processing chambers, still standing proud despite knowing her fate. I speak now not as Earth's ambassador, but as a human being, Daniel continued. In our history, we have committed terrible acts against each other. We have justified cruelty with tradition. We have excused killing with law. But we have learned, painfully, that some principles must transcend borders. He looked around the chamber, meeting alien gazes one by one. The right to live, the right to think, the right to speak. These cannot be cultural considerations. They must be universal. You risk everything, Valeria warned quietly. Your application, Earth's future, relations. Some things are worth the risk, Daniel replied. The Drellani delegation rose as one. Their leader, Krant Zek, stepped forward. This human insults our most sacred traditions. We demand his removal and the suspension of Earth's application. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Daniel stood his ground, even as he saw his diplomatic mission crumbling before his eyes. I have one question for this assembly, he said. If we accept that 50,000 lives can be taken today because they are Drellani, whose lives will we sacrifice tomorrow? Where does the silence end? The screens suddenly went dark. The transmission from the Drellani homeworld had been cut. The human delegate has violated protocol, Krant Zek announced formally. We request an immediate vote on sanctions against Earth. As security personnel approached Daniel, he saw Susan, Lisa, Alex, and Goran moving to join him on the floor. Surprisingly, Julara and several other alien representatives from smaller worlds were standing too. It seems, Valeria Corin said, looking around with mild surprise, that the ambassador's words have resonated with others. Perhaps a full council session is required before any vote. Krant Zek's face contorted with rage. This is unprecedented. Yes, Valeria agreed, studying Daniel with new interest. It is. As Daniel was escorted from the assembly hall, messages were already streaming in from Earth. President Washington's face appeared on his personal communicator, her expression grim but determined. "We saw everything," she said. "The whole broadcast reached Earth. The people are with you, Ambassador. Whatever comes next, you will not stand alone." The Earth Embassy was now under surveillance. Security drones hovered outside every window, and Confederation guards stood at all entrances. Daniel and his team were not officially detained, but they couldn't leave either. It had been 2 days since the broadcast and Daniel's unprecedented stand in the assembly hall. President Washington has ordered the Horizon Star to move closer to the hub, Goran reported, checking his secure communications device. "Captain Cole says they'll be in range within 6 hours. Daniel shook his head. "One Earthship won't make a difference if the Drillani decide to attack." Susan was reviewing data on multiple screens. "Public opinion on Earth is overwhelmingly in your favor, Daniel. The broadcast reached every major population center. People are demanding action." "What kind of action?" Daniel asked. "We can't fight." "The entire Confederation." Lisa looked up from her legal texts. "Maybe we don't have to. Frank found something." Frank Holloway, their intelligence officer, stepped forward. He was a quiet man who rarely spoke in meetings, but his research was always thorough. "I've been digging through historical archives," he said. "The Confederation has faced similar situations before. 3 times in its history, member species have challenged the non-interference principle. Each time the challenging species mysteriously disappeared from records shortly after." "Disappeared how?" Alex asked. Frank displayed 3 star charts. These were the home systems of the species in question. Historical records show unexplained stellar instabilities destroyed each civilization within 5 years of their challenge. Chill ran through the room. "Are you suggesting the Confederation destroyed entire species?" Daniel asked. "Not the Confederation," Frank corrected. "The Drillani." Each of these events coincided with Drillani fleet movements that were classified as training exercises at the time. Susan's face paled. "They eliminate anyone who threatens their practices." The door chimed, interrupting them. 2 Confederation security officers entered, flanking a tall, ancient-looking alien. This being had translucent skin through which complex organs pulsed with light. "Ambassador Winters," one guard announced. "Elder Savannah of the Luminari requests a private meeting." Daniel nodded, and his team reluctantly left the room. The elder settled into a specially designed chair, the lights under his skin pulsing slowly. "My species lives very long lives, Ambassador," Savannah said, his voice like whispered wind. "I was present when the Drillani joined the Confederation. I witnessed what came before and what changed after." "Why are you here, Elder?" Daniel asked. "Tell you that you are not the first to speak as you did, but you might be the first to survive it." The Elder's inner lights changed to a deep blue. "The Drillani hold power through fear and strategic alliances. They have shaped Confederation policy for centuries. And no one opposes them? Opposition means extinction. Until now." Elder Savannah leaned forward. "Humanity is different. Your broadcast technology spread the ceremony and your words to your homeworld instantly. Too many witnesses now. Too many know." "The Drillani will still demand punishment," Daniel said. "Yes. The council convenes tomorrow to decide your fate." "Elder." Savannah's lights pulsed faster. "But something unexpected has happened. 17 member species have requested to speak in your defense." Daniel looked surprised. 17? Your words awakened old doubts, old questions, and something else. The Drillani females who survived, those not yet taken to the arena, are rebelling. Reports of uprisings come from 3 Drillani colonies. After Elder Savannah left, Daniel's team returned. He shared what he had learned. "This is bigger than us now," Alex said. A message alert sounded. It was from Maya Edwards, their media specialist on Earth. Her face appeared on screen, excited. "Ambassador, the footage is everywhere. Not just on Earth. We're getting reports that someone has bypassed Confederation communications controls." The broadcast and your speech are playing on worlds across the galaxy. How is that possible? Susan asked. Maya grinned. We think it's the Teresi. Their communications technology is among the most advanced. Later that night, as Daniel prepared for the council session, Ryan Clark, his security chief, burst into the room. Ambassador, we've intercepted communications. There's an assassination plot against you. The Drellani have sent operatives to ensure you never reach the council chamber. Daniel considered this news. Then we change our approach. Contact Julara immediately. The next morning, the path to the council chamber was heavily guarded. Daniel and his team were escorted by Confederation security forces. As they approached the grand doors, Ryan spotted movement in a shadowed alcove. Down, he shouted, pushing Daniel aside as an energy weapon discharged. Confederation guards rushed to surround them, but the assassin had vanished. Daniel stood up, straightening his uniform. They're desperate, Susan whispered. They should be, Daniel replied. The council chamber was smaller than the assembly hall, designed for the highest-ranking representatives of each species. As Daniel entered, he was surprised to see Elder Sovana sitting among the council members. High Counselor Valeria, Corin opened the session. We gather to address the actions of Ambassador Daniel Winters of Earth during the Drellani cultural broadcast. The Drellani Empire has formally demanded Earth's application be rejected, and the ambassador removed. Krant Zek stepped forward. The human has interfered in our sovereign affairs. This cannot be tolerated. Before we proceed, a new voice said, I wish to address the council. All eyes turned to see Counselor Thalcon, a senior member from a species known for their neutrality. He was respected throughout the Confederation for his wisdom. For too long we have hidden behind the principle of non-interference, Thalcon said. We have watched atrocities and called them cultural practices. The humans spoke what many of us have thought for centuries but feared to say. Murmurs spread through the chamber. More council members stood to speak, representatives of worlds both large and small. The Confederation was founded to unite different species in peace, one said. Not to enable genocide, another added. Krantzek's face darkened with rage. You risk war with the Drellani Empire. Perhaps it is time for that risk, Thalcon replied calmly. Reports reach us of rebellion within your own worlds. Your females rise up, inspired by the humans' words. Daniel stepped forward. I did not come here to incite war. I came seeking friendship between Earth and all peaceful species. But peace built on the systematic murder of innocent beings is no peace at all. He looked around the chamber. What happens here today is about more than Earth's membership or my actions. It's about what kind of confederation you wish to be. One that stands for universal rights, or one that looks away from horror for the sake of false harmony. The council chamber grew quiet as his words sank in. Even Krant Zek seemed momentarily without response. Valeria Corin broke the silence. The council will now vote on two matters, the status of Earth's application and whether to establish new, Confederation-wide principles regarding the treatment of sentient beings. As the vote began, Daniel knew that whatever the outcome, the galaxy had changed. The silent acceptance of cruelty had been challenged, and the first steps toward true justice had been taken. 1 month had passed since the council vote. Daniel stood at the viewport in his office, watching ships come and go from the Confederation hub. The past weeks had transformed galactic politics in ways no one could have predicted. The council had voted to maintain Earth's application status despite Drellani protests. More importantly, they had established a committee to draft the first-ever Galactic Rights Charter, basic protections that would apply to all sentient beings, regardless of species or origin. Susan entered the office, carrying a datapad. The latest reports from the Drellani territories, she said, handing it to Daniel. He scrolled through the information. The uprisings had spread to 12 Drellani worlds. The rigid empire was fracturing from within as females and lower caste males joined forces against their oppressors. Any word from our contact? Daniel asked. Susan nodded. Krell is alive. He's leading one of the larger resistance groups on Drelax Prime. They've taken control of 3 major cities. The door opened again, and Maya Edwards entered. She had arrived from Earth 2 weeks ago to help manage the growing media interest in humanity's role in the unfolding events. "Ambassador, you need to see this," she said, activating the main screen. The image showed a Drelani female addressing a massive crowd. It was Shivax, somehow alive, her face scarred but her eyes bright with purpose. "How is this possible?" Daniel asked. "We saw her in the arena." "Apparently some processing chambers were sabotaged," Maya explained. "Resistance members working inside the facility smuggled out key leaders before the executions. They've been hiding her until now." On screen, Shivax spoke with passionate conviction. "For generations we were told our only value was in breeding. Today we stand as equals, demanding the right to live freely. The human ambassador showed the galaxy what courage looks like. Now we must show the same courage." The broadcast switched to scenes of Drelani society in transformation. Females working alongside males in government buildings, children of all castes learning together, the ancient symbols of genetic purity being replaced with new emblems of equality. "It's happening faster than anyone predicted," Susan said. "Revolution often does," Daniel replied. "Once people see that change is possible, they move quickly." The door chimed again. This time it was Ryan Clark, their security chief. "Ambassador, High Counselor Valeria Corrin and Counselor Thalcon request an urgent meeting." Daniel straightened his uniform. "Send them in." The 2 Confederation leaders entered, their expressions grave. Valeria spoke first. "We have a situation, Ambassador. The Drelani High Command has threatened to use planet-killer weapons on their own worlds to stop the rebellions." Daniel felt his blood run cold. "They would destroy their own people?" Thalcon nodded. "The ruling caste would rather see their civilization ended than transformed. They have activated their doomsday protocol." "How long do we have?" Daniel asked. "Hours, perhaps," Valeria said. "The Confederation fleet is mobilizing, but we've never faced such a threat internally before. Our forces are designed to defend against outside dangers, not to intervene in member worlds." "Earth's fleet is too small to help," Daniel said. "But maybe we don't need military power. Has anyone tried to communicate directly with the Drelani High Command?" Thalcon looked surprised. "They refuse all contact. They consider the situation an internal matter and invoke their sovereign rights." "Then we remove that shield," Daniel said firmly. "Call an emergency session of the full council. I have a proposal." 2 hours later, Daniel stood before the assembled council. Representatives from all species watched intently as he presented his case. "The emergency before us transcends conventional politics," he began. "The Drelani High Command threatens not just their own people but the very foundations of the Confederation. If we allow them to destroy entire worlds rather than accept change, we are complicit in genocide." Krant Zek, still representing the old Drelani leadership, rose to object. "This is Drelani business. You have no right—" "I recognize a new voice. From the Drelani people," Daniel interrupted, gesturing to the entrance. Shivax walked into the chamber, flanked by Krell and other resistance leaders. A murmur of shock ran through the assembled representatives. "The true voice of the Drelani stands before you," Daniel continued. "Not just the ruling caste, but all Drelani. They ask for the Confederation's help against tyrants who would rather destroy their civilization than share power." Shivax stepped forward. "For too long a small group has claimed to speak for all Drelani. Today we speak for ourselves. We request emergency intervention to prevent mass destruction." The council chamber erupted in debate. Finally, Elder Savannah rose, his ancient form commanding immediate silence. "In all our history we have never intervened in a member world," he said slowly. "But neither have we faced the threat of self-inflicted extinction. Today, we must create a new precedent." The vote was swift and nearly unanimous. The Confederation officially recognized the resistance as the legitimate voice of the Drelani people and authorized immediate intervention to secure the planet-killer weapons. As the council dispersed to implement their decision, Valeria approached Daniel. You have changed everything, Ambassador. The Confederation will never be the same. Change was overdue, Daniel replied. The galaxy was ready for it. All it needed was a voice. 3 days later, Daniel watched from the command deck of the Horizon Star as a combined fleet of ships from 23 species surrounded the Drellani homeworld. The operation had been successful. The planet-killer weapons were secured and the old leadership had surrendered when faced with overwhelming opposition. On the planet below, celebrations filled the streets. Males and females of all castes mingled freely for the first time in thousands of years. The rigid hierarchies were crumbling, replaced by the first tentative structures of a more equal society. President Washington's face appeared on the main screen. You've done remarkable work, Ambassador. Earth is proud. It wasn't just me, Daniel said. It was all of us. Humans spoke when others were silent, but in the end, every species found their voice. The new Galactic Rights Charter has been drafted, the President said. The Confederation Council has invited Earth to be a full member, with you as our permanent representative. Daniel smiled. There's still so much work to do. Changing laws is one thing. Changing hearts and minds takes longer. He looked out at the stars, billions of points of light, each potentially home to beings with their own struggles for justice and dignity. But it's work worth doing, he said, for all of us. The pain of those 50,000 women who died would never be forgotten. Their memory would live on in the new order that was emerging from the ashes of oppression. Their sacrifice had not been in vain. It had awakened the conscience of a galaxy that had slept too long.